Hello, America. As a company, per law, you can't discriminate. Excuse me. One can't discriminate. See, that's part of the reason. In other words, the law discriminates. But we're not going into, oh, but look, and this is the example, and then leave it off and go to the next part of the stream of consciousness, which is really more and more finite as Letha Hadid's self-value, which is forced space-nature transfer per science. Not per, oh, this is science because this is what is writ. What is writ contradicts itself. And defenses of that are also as theater. This uses correlation nature simultaneously inherent, active, and progressive means. Not just how I think, how you think. They're lying about how you think. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a police force, I'm not a criminal, I'm not military. All exceptions in exception nature associated with the three branches of government and themselves and overt criminal enterprises. They're individuals grouped in together. And private ones, not how they've been grouped by, no witch trials. They're most probably about and are demonstrably about how all locations, areas, and states had to counter the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures as fact treatment nature, simultaneously as sequence treatment nature. They have sequence shifts involved with a method that is methods, where and how, for example, everyone relies on other people's opinions when they ask about the law. The lawyers and the three branches of government, and the overt criminal enterprises, and the private ones, and killers and people next to the body dumping spots, are kept needing to hide the same illusions that are only discernible through following the sequence shifts. The money was originally and still, we know, juxtaposed. You can't, it was a method that needed everyone to blame other things, others, and ourselves, even when correctly, for the real causes of negative value nature progressions, actually, and natures. Because while they were doing it correctly, they were simultaneously also doing it incorrectly, exactly the way it wanted, needed. Then they were needing to pretend other to all spots of correlation nature's actually inherent, active, progressive means. So Fox News, MSNBC, and CNN, we all want them to love us, and we want to love them. The only national/international news we have, basically, where there are others. But all difference is being and having been employed. Rolls with the breaching method. Anyone tries to use the actually recorded, inherent, active, and progressive means of discerning its influences over everybody's positive and negative treatments. They overtly steal our identities with people we didn't even have classes with. And they took conjunction with people we had classes with. We had virtually no communications with them. Hi, hello, that's it. Not by accident. These are people that have been telling lies to our in other words, our intelligence community leading up to the World Trade Center attack in that context. And then leading up to a 2006 district court case in Connecticut. And since that too, they've been hiding their lie progressions, what they did in those cases, and as people that are also having been doing that on off campuses, and their roles with uses of corners of streets. This is where we are, a value/value progression, where homes now are exactly the way they were and were since before cars. Basically, all exceptions, exception nature, and demonstration of the same thing. We have self-value many ways. That which was employed for the fact, treatment, nature, torture of, and slavery of our founding parents, our real ones. And where and how there was counter theater, everyone was forced counter-extorted to defend the surface values of the Constitution. They were simultaneously forced to hide that also. And so modern nations were born, and then America was born. Still enslaved and pretending other for the breaching method, screening it, all locations, areas, and states, criminally foreign influence. So when they say, oh, they're going against the president's agenda, that agenda and the counters to it are in collusion. Both political parties are the complete possession, just like the agencies are the complete possession of a breaching method. They're worse than criminal incompetence, speaking for overt criminal enterprises and private ones, because they are kept needing to hide the same sequence shifts, finite, active, progressive life. People that are just killers on the side associated with that. People just associated with the buildings and houses near and or living locations near where they have the body dumping spots, like of a serial killer before he got caught in sin. Same people involved with child offenders with predicate acts before they got caught in sin. Same people involved with the forensics locations and court, prisons, leaderships, and families that run those prisons kept needing to hide the same sequence shifts, finite, active, progressive lives, roles with offensive evidence racketeering. You think, every word and phrase they interpret, they came through criminally. In other words, we don't have logic experts. We have people delaying and stacking more fabricated audio and video and trying to leave that out. The databases since before computers, they've been used to arrange illusions, maintain self-value as victim reactions, as coordinated on campuses and off campuses collusion with worse as uses of locations, where and how people are using others' names, where and how people are just having perception, because there is complete possession over all identity ground locations. So that all differences are also having been self-valued and having been employed to screen this. In other words, people speak about success, but where is success? In other words, they have physical delusions when they say, well, things can't work if we don't have a working class. This is a trap. This is a trap, and it was a trap. So how the locations, areas, and states, they're gonna let they already made positive and negative treatments that were insidious in collusion with themselves, and the neutral treatments insidious. They were effectively recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, pretending other but is recorded, but also, complete remote possession of everyone, because everyone will not follow mandated law outside of courts and online. This is an identity theft from people from other classrooms with where and how mayors and other higher political figures and their family members were involved with sequence shifts. The 94 school year, I never was around a Luigi or about Paul Zano. Paul Zano I'd seen before that. I never had a word of conversation with Luigi Guerra and his sister. I never had a class with her. And she's a beautiful girl. I don't want to say anything. I don't even know her. They make me use other people's names because they involved her with predicate acts on off Central Connecticut State University. And in other words, with hearsay, with identity thefts and frauds, slanders with people tied to her. So there's like a Jonathan Maiano, who is also involved with judges. I never met him until the 1994 school year. His name had been repeated to me by one of the people involved with Wethersfield Police and wire crimes over the last year and before that. And before the pandemic, too, online. And now these are people also with threats. In other words, this is part of a cover-up where they're making the news announcers and the judges defend fact treatments, time treatments, positive and negative treatments, neutrality treatments where they can't defend themselves and afford. They have to pretend other. That will be and is increasingly being recorded. And they're needed to pretend others recorded. So they're increasingly self-valued, how all locations, areas, and states. were already used remotely. They already kept needing to hide the same sequence shifts, find active, progressive lies with the individuals, groups, their family members, their neighbors of overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and the interbranch together, intercampuses too. Timed. This is through time. These aren't just people pretending that, these are people sequence shift calling the parents' names and with physical delusions. They're putting theory where they should be putting what is science, what we can know. We know our founders didn't have free speech. That's why they had to counter-extort the other founding parents into the courage to pretend that they were fighting against taxes. Deeper than that. So these are people's uses of other people's names and of the theater, where and how they have undercovers and their acting teachers. They have plainclothes officers as people involved with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. With Wethersfield Police, there's a Dillon family, non-verbally confirmed the confessions of others involved with the people on the child abuse register, also through time with identity thefts and frauds, other natures of federal crimes with Jamie Smith and David Smith's mother, and people associated with the Wethersfield town officers with them in other countries, and with Andrew and Tim O'Brien and Dennis O'Brien, his wife, I don't know his wife's name, or if they're still married, and they have extended family members also as ones involved with Sandy Hook, and with West Hartford teachers, and with Wethersfield teachers, and cliques that are involved with the prisons, and on off the state prison offices, on off the state judicial branches offices, recorded and involved with predicate acts, identity thefts and frauds, remote uses of the differences of the cultures in relationship also to their roles, also with juxtaposed, distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneously natures of drugs and medicines crimes roles, including with a Dr. Graham, also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with a bunch of judges and observers with them, and other courts also recorded, like a Judge Killian also spoke fake things into records with a Dr. Zeman, and and in collusion with a Leahy family. There's a Leahy family. Now, these are people also that are coordinating illusions and needed self-value by the kids between the grammar schools and the middle school, and then they're kept needing to hide those lie progressions at the high school, but they're not legitimately with the FBI, like former director of the FBI in his defendant capacities, Robert Luskin, leading up to and in a 2006 district court case. He is also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed as one of the names involved with wrongdoing and predicate acts against me and people tied to me, also in the context where they attached me and people tied to me, and they do this to people of each age. They attach everyone to fake words with each other, fake ties to each other, fake natures of ties to each other. People that know I was not their friend, I only know them because they were making extended confessions to me about their roles with overt criminal enterprises and with private ones, like a Joe DeMoro and a Mike Kerr. They made confessions about their roles with a Judge Smith, who also spoke fake things into records, also with physical delusions. When I was a kid, and they prevented writing since I was a kid. Now these people are further then and now recorded and confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with a Robert Rodriguez, who confirmed, confessed, demonstrated, recorded. Others, these are people that I never had anything to do with growing up. They tried to make an exception one time when on Maple Street, besides the T-ball. I had nothing to do, as people involved, intercities, on off Trinity College, Wethersfield Police have roles with untimely death and roles with ecstasy and or whatever drugs were involved with that. Now these are people also have roles with fentanyl and stuff like that because they have fact cheating nature oriented predicate acts, sequence shifts, mail crimes. There's a Leahy family that pretended whole fake conversations with me. I never had a conversation with them in my life. I said one word, yeah. And I've been waiting to the older one. The other one just put a clipboard, the younger Brendan Leahy, just put a clipboard down in front of me in a triage. And I had no reaction. You know, he was already recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed by a whole bunch of people tied to him, involved with sequence shifts. And like a Rick Faglione, I had nothing to do with Rick Faglione. I never saw him around. I never had anything positive or negative. It was only positive in middle school class with a Mr. Neville, who involved his name and my name and all these other people I don't know, I never had a class with Eric Olson or a Matt Olson. They're involved with identity thefts and frauds. I never had a conversation with them. They probably tried to take a picture of me where they apparently tried to know me outside of Trinity College when I was in high school. Now, people on Zion Street are also involved. People on my street said that there's a Mark Violet and there's a Mike Violet also involved with this O'Brien family and people with the intelligence community, intercities involved with New Britain, Central Connecticut State University, and with Hartford courts and judges. There is a Delafair family that has probate court judges that has been involved. They used to have phone things. They used to use cigarettes that pretend to make phone calls. And they used to get people and kids in trouble with that and with the drugs. And they would, their role falsifying police reports where they don't present writing to the kids. And they get a raise of kids from other classrooms and stuff hiding the lie progressions because they have roles with like Korean families and like with Italian families that are involved with psychology, and they have roles with, you know, on off Town Line Drive. There is a political figure named Joseph Lieberman. I don't know him, and his wife is reportedly recorded by people associated with Central Connecticut State University that had my name used with them criminally as people involved with the pattern of people tied that had communications with those teachers. I never had private communications with them. All exceptions, demonstrations, same thing, which also involves confessions. Like I had 2 speech teachers in high school, and the second time I had one of them made confessions about his roles with the corner of Carriage Hill Drive and Fairlane, and with his family, and with the Dillon family. Now there's a Dillon family, I don't know where they live. There was a whole bunch of people on off Two Rod Highway who said that he's involved with them with sequence shifts and their roles with various natures of confessions and roles with relevant mentioned things, and then pretending other too online, because they've been using Facebook with the investigators, the investigations, and the prosecutors and their family members are kept needing to hide lie progressions, and with the overt criminal enterprises and private ones. Forgiveness is about what is preventing legitimate integrity and care and love for everyone. In courts, especially. See, but that can't pretend to speak for science. The science is sharing identity. We have to be able to we have to use evidence where people are making time treatments that are simultaneously using time too fast, too slow to get over. In other words, computers are simpler. They're about identity. Before and while they are about binary value, which is only given, so now you can have another part of the computer do math and increase the value of the number given simultaneous. See, this is also about the hyper simultaneous, which is needed to discern because, for example, being an individual is being a simultaneous nature. Being a group is being a simultaneous nature. Excuse me. Being a species identity of volume /S, it is one volume that is only going to make more of itself, distinctly onto and as Earth's value, increasingly being forced from here, where it had an extra concentrated hyper positive, where more and more forever nature can be made that is also positive unto itself. And we wouldn't have that if it was self-valued naturally. The only reason it's self-valued naturally now is because it's self-valued our roles with motivations, natures, needs, interests. In other words, incapable of having all that we are capable of discerning at each age of fact-keeping nature, spoken for with short words legitimately. They come with revelations. Now, do you think elderly homes? See, how elderly homes are worse than a rat trap that wants to be called a rat trap, so it can do, and put up the, oh, well, we work for jobs. So, well, all kinds of, we have the various natures of the branches of government individually grouped and together, how criminally foreign influenced. So we have to have mandated law follow and on time. And they're in the background making more subjects. They're switching subjects to leave out how they were our inclusion with people since we were in the youngest grades. The people typing in the fake things and the people that are in our grades, people with unapparent connections, even by them mostly, because it's facilitated by the method, the breaching method, that used database relationships since before we were born, anyone, before our founding parents were born. Databases weren't just computers. This is about the ancient sophistication that was preserved, still criminally foreign influenced. The republic for which we stand. The reason why, in English, the predicate act is named the predicate act, and why the predicate is named the predicate. But this involves where and how lawyers were criminally foreign influenced with the branches of government, pretending other also delusions wrought. See, we have positive, also using lies as truths, criminally foreign influenced. We have to use that phrase, but we don't have to blame the criminal foreign influences on another modern country because they found themselves in the same rat trap, designed to make people causing other things, others, blaming other things, others and or selves for what the archetypal criminal enterprise is causing, and knows that we have means inherent active and simultaneously inherent active and progressive to demonstrate, to discern the existence of of invisible but still discernible hyper-archetypal criminal enterprise with influences over all fact-keeping nature reception locations, and then further into branch. But this is maintained at all locations, and then all locations further to collusion with what was really going on at all locations. It's like that. That people self-value roles with fact-keeping nature-oriented predicate acts and needing to pretend other, including and especially regarding differentially the overt criminal enterprises and the modern countries as archetypal criminal enterprises, where they use, quote, the right to lie, unquote, criminally foreign influence, exploiting exceptions and exception nature. And the breaching method knew that they would do that, so simultaneously incapable of affording someone using short words and at each age are actually inherent means to demonstrate. There are people in the backgrounds that pretend they value too late everything going down and having been going down. We have knaves as offensive evidence reception identities of titles, locations, areas. People pretend passions, emotions, using the souls of people that sacrificed as service people, where there's an exception nature. The whole identity of a nation is given to people. In other words, there are doctors with the interbranch that have been fabricating audio and video, but together too. But it's distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously. And so the people on off my street made confessions and statements to me before the World Trade Center. Made confessions and statements to me before I called the principal child abusers campus on the phone. For example, relevant, they switched it to a fake emails they pretended I sent with NBC Connecticut News. There were also FBI involved with Twitter and pretending I signed in from different locations, I don't know, per Twitter, but also per an Ian who is or pretended to be an Ian up on near Pondside, who is involved with a whole bunch of people tied to a Phil Colella, who's also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with falsified police reports and child abuses of juxtaposed natures, with courts and police forms and doctors and people associated with the services for them too, on and off their places, involved kept with identity theft, fraud, sequence shifts, and physical delusions and uses of that. See, but we have to have people they also switch names into branch so they can keep using how they, criminally foreign influenced readings of statutes and of precedents originally and still. So that's through differential criminal foreign influences, but it is increasing, and they are increasingly valuing that having been. So they are increasingly simultaneously valuing theory, intersciences in place of legitimate understanding and fact-keeping nature and identity and title reception, including the title of the modern country we are, America. We're in a trap, modern countries, A through Z. So each must see. All exceptions and exception nature are in demonstration of the same thing through the voices only allowed to speak. You guys aren't following mandated law outside of courts. So Trinity College and Central Connecticut State University have roles with corners near my street. In other words, corners on Griswold Street, corners along Route 3. And with people with a Joshua Stryker. I never saw Joshua Stryker in my life. I never saw him anywhere near this part of town. I saw him one time outside of campus. A whole bunch of people that I barely know made more and more confessions tied to their roles with places near the state judicial branch offices and other houses near there involved with falsified police reports and other natures of child abuse, identity thefts, natures of identity theft, fraud instances, roles, where there is offensive evidence reception racketeering and there is offensive identity racketeering. It is always concentrated with the people associated with the position, the titles that are told to be experts on logic, that are still criminally foreign influence. They can't defend themselves in their processes and us at the same time, so they increasingly self-value, fabricating audio and video, switching names, using little phenomenon where they have mandated communications with people. Originally still used criminally foreign influence. You think that legitimately the representatives of locations, areas, and states are made capable to speak for locations, areas, and states? No. They have to, admitting that brings revelations. Look at New York City. That was designed to cause negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, and to make roles, blaming them on other things, others, and or selves, and keeping that going. A machine. We have a scam. So they are sequence shifting, and they're styles of sequence shift predators as who we want to love us. CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. They are not legitimate representations of the Democrats and the Republicans per their roles with wire crimes, like with NBC Connecticut News, Fox Connecticut News, and other print and other journalists, and roles with such uses of locations, roles with offensive evidence perception racketeering, worse than war crimes. I'm just going to call it that. Worse than, as roles with the predicate acts delivery system method /S, which when they make opinions, when people make opinions about Jim Crow laws, what is it about? I never heard anybody say criminal foreign influence uses of locations, areas, and states, but that's partially what it was about. I never heard criminally foreign influence uses of the physical delusions, self-value, of locations, areas, and states, and intersciences, and of overt criminal enterprises, private wantons a year. That's what it was about. So hundreds of nations shared, individually grouped and together, they can't defend what they've been speaking about their identity and positive negative treatments, and us here or there from what exploits that here and there and everywhere. An archetypal criminal enterprise. It's especially during the pandemic. We had means. See, but everyone's self-value, everyone tries to make, everyone was child abused to be told to make positive out of negatives. There is a way to reveal positive that is hyper positive, which is, in other words, a criminal insidiousness nature. Like a wrongdoer is going to use truths for lies. They're going to use positive treatments. They're going to use criminal insidious nature, positive treatments, and negative treatments and collusion. Neutralities and collusion. That's in other words. So they have school boards, and this is where everyone speaks about other people through others. They told me things about people in the school board. Then if I say that, then they think I'm, and they have means to pretend it's personal against them, and they want privacy or whatever like that. As the people in the background with the courts, the same courts and their family members themselves criminally involved. They had a fake meeting about me with they had the different Connecticut news media told different lies. And when they attached me to fake mental diagnosis when I was a kid, I would have had nothing to do with doctors. And then as an adult, these are people that they have like fraudulent mind little people involved with identity thefts and frauds, slandering everyone, and they're pretending they're with legitimate perception. They've been using roles with the police forms with the kids to keep interbranch criminally foreign influence differentially, but differentially increasingly. They have where they make groups inside the classes. They part them into groups because they keep a whole bunch of things off the record this way. They are kept needing to hide live progressions intercities at the campuses per the roles with the interbranch, then needing to pretend they could speak for a positive, needing to pretend, needing to sell value, preemptive, criminal foreign influence uses of the campuses of kids since before they went there. When they have their narratives with people trying to, campuses want this quality of student, stuff like that, all that stuff is narratives in the background. These are people involved with identity thefts and frauds. They're coordinating illusions between private school kids, public school kids, and homeschooled, and then years later exploiting it where and how they're themselves, their doctors, and everyone around them, their nurses, they have to make confession statements to strangers. Then they pretend because they know no one's going to go back and have a conversation. No one knows them, but fake things are being put in databases. And when you go to the courts, they don't provide you the right to remain innocent. They ask you questions like you're going to lie because you caught them lying outside of courts. That's what's recorded, even with Facebook. So then they replace what's actually recorded on Facebook, and Facebook doesn't know how to do anything but take collusion with that. And they're told to pretend, the person's making conspiracies against the government. They're told to make lies about it. Okay, so then they have it court-sided. They're making the president fight in court to have his posts unblocked. And they have an overall allegation against him. Because these are people involved with allegations, the people that police the internet, the people that raised them from the schools that told them this is how a computer works. It works with the circuit, and it works with identity, but we're gonna, this and this is for this employment. They employed people they're taking too much time to explain what doesn't, in other words. These are worse than taxes of everyone. Like, in other words, New York City. We're not gonna look away from the negative value nature progressions, acts, natures, the real cause of them and the uses of it. Not because everyone's using it to get through everyone using it. Just to the discernment of the breaching method using it. American history is about the breaching method using locations, areas, and states, criminally foreign influenced. Leaders forced roles with entertained locations, areas, and states, criminal and serious nature of positive treatment and of negative treatments and of the identity treatments and of sequence treatments simultaneously. How could that speak for? That's not to be aggressive. The knife, I grabbed it without thinking about, because I'm not in front of you, so I wouldn't grab a knife like that in front of someone. I don't, and people shouldn't do that. See, people make people angry with the nature of identity theft / fraud / S. It's one method, but don't forget it was through everybody else. You entertain those crazy laws and defenses of them, rolls with witch trials, rolls making people pick cotton, sickly distinctly from how they had it in the North. No, and people don't even realize the North had rolls with it, because they made the North and the South maintained locations, areas, states, criminally foreign influenced, only capable of blaming other things, others, and ourselves, while nature was / is increasingly demonstrating it to correlation nature. So increasingly they had their value here and there. Correlation nature, the perfect world, use their phrase, quote, perfect world, unquote, per one of my sources involved with the names and there are police forms from East Hartford who are also involved with predicate acts with people and with wrongdoing with people after the World Trade Center attack, who had their family members also with East Hartford has a number of police forms involved with a Detective Samuda, also with he made a crazy face to a black female judge. Now there are black and white female judges also involved with men and women involved with sexual abuses of boys and girls, also with the doctors supposed to be involved against that, and as ones with overt criminal enterprises. And they've been forging, switching names as police forms. There's also a whole bunch of people that recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. There's an officer, Poison, and are people involved with the systems that are computer systems and response systems for warrants and things like that were and are involved with relevant fact treatment nature predicate acts with databases and with locations like the Wethersfield Police Department. So, where it used to be and where it is now, and the locations next to it through time. Control your mind. So this is also, they also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They used the 3 spots at the end of the Berlin Turnpike. They used, so they used complete possession where people are social groups and they don't want to get in trouble for things. But the same ones, they have to pretend to others simultaneously. So they make statements and confessions to strangers that are also timed, which is also relevant to where and how they kept uses of corners so overt / insidious from being demonstrated since founding, where and how they kept the value, the rates and standards so overtly employed criminally foreign influence since founding. That's not the means that we could build. This is a divide and conquer method. Then, what's that guy with the mustache? And with these advertisements on the advertisement companies of Fox Connecticut News and of Fox NBC Connecticut News and of WFSB. There are a number of ad placement companies, including medical ones. You hear all these medical ads. Oh, I have all these people complaining about their mental diagnosis and things like that and their mental conditions. These are people with judges and prosecutors and their family members putting fake things in databases, pretending they had conversations with people, with a whole bunch of people with the fire departments, because what is way worse than politics, but they're only capable of calling such politics. They have complete possession of both political parties. I shouldn't have to beg and draw a map to the spots around the thing. They have fake conversations with me, with judges and prosecutors about how and why I could go near a school or not. They've been put with this Phil Colo as one of the ones involved with the rest of the people involved with the Principal Child Abusers campus. I caught them forcing, sustaining games on off campus, predicate acts roles, fact cheating nature oriented confessions and uses of such. Because these are people involved with uses of that when I was a kid. Then they use timed uses of it with the names that were involved leading up to the World Trade Center, and since they wouldn't let me and others tell about what the judges and prosecutors were doing at locations like near body dumping spots. They were pretending people on fake ties to people on campuses that don't even know each other, because they had them employed with offensive evidence reception racketeering, with worse than racketeering, in various natures of cases. Various natures of uses of depositions for identity theft and fraud. They're just positing illusions into databases as a scam roll. Now, the people who answer the phones for the news media are also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed with them criminally foreign influenced and delusions wrought, and then calling other people names rather than dealing with the sequence shifts. Rather than dealing with the fake words they attach me to. They pretend they don't understand people. You guys know I said they attach me to fake words. These are people that have been, and communications at all that never were at all. And now these are people that did this to me when I was a kid. Complete strangers made confessions to me. Gave me affidavits about how police forms attached them to fake words. The same ones involved with this Dillon family. Same ones involved with the people that were in my grades. They're forcing me to use the names of, so it makes it sound like I know them. And when you want to say you pretend you know someone, because just to be polite, and I'm not going to stop doing that. In other words, with Anthony Minacchio, I don't know Anthony Minacchio. I'm just being polite, and because he's a polite person. But his friends, everyone's. And they're using the kids of everyone with this Dillon family, with the people preventing me writing, attaching me to fake locations, fake words, sequence shifts. These are the people involved with the confessions of the Wethersfield police. There's two Mendez police, and there's a whole bunch of people associated with a Smith family, and the Wethersfield town offices that have recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, also with fire department families that are involved with attaching me to fake words. I don't even know them. They made confessions and statements to me. They have roles with doctors forging and switching names, and with Anthony Agman, further involved, having been using uses of Facebook for various natures of abuses of kids, even sexual and medical and educational abuses, even simultaneously pretending with sick, fake passions and emotions to be against such. The same people pretending they're hiding it by pretending to be against prejudice and stuff like that. They have that. That's why it's so critical to discern how they have some black, white military police with themselves and others, and whether they don't even know the black one. MPO Floyd doesn't even realize, but that's what he's involved with. See, when you start getting involved with falsified police reports, drugs and medicines crimes, and roles with rape threats, with courts, criminally foreign influence with the police forms, former director of the FBI, CIA family members. I don't know how to pronounce her name. I heard it from Eric Jensen. Kelly Kazmarek. And they're also involved with people that they said, I never had a conversation, I never had a class with Nicole Leggett ever. I never saw her around everywhere. One time I walked by her, and then she was with a Mike Pandoff. They're involved with identity thefts and frauds with people on the next to the news media, the Connecticut news media, and the national news media, and which / international. But note how they're doing that because they want to pretend we're saying bad things about them, because they're sequence shifting and trying to make things A or B that are not. They're trying to make things binary. Binary only has value if because now they could multiply to figure out which number that was, so they could figure out which identity of key it is, what letter, what sequence, what group of letters were typed. So they're making things complicated that don't have to be. They're taxing people. They invented they're making people, entertain delusions and simultaneously criminally foreign influence positive treatments and negative treatments and names treatments offensively too to hide this, because that was all used remotely. This knew that there would be a fake sophistication. In other words, that could only speak for success offensively, where it needs to pretend. So someone better follow mandated law and respond to my video for the judges and for the courts and the prosecutors and the state's attorneys involved with the switching names game and the falsified police reports since I was a kid, because there are connections to them. Obviously, you guys brought up a whole bunch of different names and uses of locations and recorded uses of arrays of opinions in collusion with sequence shifts and in collusion with identity thefts and frauds instances. They'll confess this to you. You have to ask them correctly. You have to put something on paper now. See, the sources of the interbranch, they've been getting sources that making complaints about people and calling in complaints against intercities, interstates. You don't have a location area of the state that has the capability of speaking for logic and of the economy simultaneously. So they rely and they increasingly self-value each age of education, tactically criminally foreign influence. And see, it's not exploited. Before it is exploited on and off that location, which is true, increasingly. That comes through motivations at all locations. So they use the fields of Wethersfield for a method where they time where people are going to be. And they make people have reactions to positive and negative treatments, where they have theater. Like, so in other words, I don't know the McCord family. I told you guys that. There's a DeMoro family and there's a Justin Klovinskis who said that they were involved all along Route 3 with people with Korean families and with people with the Wethersfield police and military police with identity thefts and frauds relevant to where and how they lied to some girls from my grammar school. They didn't even go to my grammar school. People that weren't even my classes, I don't even know if they went to my schools. I didn't even see them around. That would pretend other. Because of how they used the names, like with the name switching and forging. There was some officer named Sullivan. There are a whole bunch of people with the name Sullivan. And they said that was a male. So that's one of the ways they're switching names. Then they said they only have one officer who's a female. But they confirmed it was one of their officers or one of the officers tied to them. Joe DeMoro also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed roles with predicate acts with co-defendants and people associated with co-defendants of former director of the FBI in a 2006 case. When I was in middle school, he also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed he was involved with a Mr. Abruzzi, who was my 5th grade teacher. I never saw Joe around campus. One time I saw him on Highcrest. And then there are people at Central Connecticut State University who also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed uses of Abruzzi involved with the confessions regarding Joseph Lieberman. This is before even Barack Obama was in office. There is complete remote possession of locations, areas, states. The Central Connecticut State University in Britain had people involved with predicate acts, with databases, and with kids when I was in grammar school. Now these are people also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with a I'll stop saying it. But Joshua Julian on Facebook, he with confessions regarding his roles with news media in the past, with a forensics location, and now there's a Cololo, a whole bunch of people tied to a Cololo family, who also like that they said in my 6th grade class said was involved with Lance Cuddy, and I don't know. These are the people that judges and their family members have been are associated with, like a DeMoro family, a Delaferro family, and other boyfriends of some Spada sisters were involved with people that were put in classes with me, and they were spreading lies about me as if there was an raise. In other words, and with people in the area on and off Two Rod Highway, are a whole bunch of people that were influenced to know my name from others and to pretend for other reasons. They were involved with sequence shifts. In other words, before the 1993, the 94 school year that ends in the summer of 94. That was the second time I did a senior year. The other 4 years, people that were in my grade had been involved with identity thefts and frauds, attaching me to fake locations with themselves. They've been involved with behavior crimes, with their criminally foreign influence, delusions wrought, and immature, and trying to make other people look like that. Because that's why you have to deal with what they were doing when they're in grammar school too. Because that's relevant to the lie progressions, where they have a whole bunch of people from the Britain Superior Court have roles with a C.N. Faglione family, with a Andrew O'Brien and Tim O'Brien growing up, and with a Ray Claw, who said also they used the corners. They say this verbally and non-verbally. They use the corners. They involve the corners of Highcrest Street, the principal child abusers campus, and the families around the schools, with them. With identity thefts and frauds, falsified police reports, roles, forced, tricked, hurt, persuaded, self-valued, all juxtaposed, because of the roles also with the courts and the police forms, and overt criminal enterprises and private ones. Now these are all things and people that they brought up, like a Mike Kerr and a Jerry Kerr and his son Jerry Kerr, with the father Jerry Kerr and a son Michael Kerr. And John DeMorrow and his older brother, John DeMorrow, and his younger brother, Joe DeMorrow, who was in my grade. He was older than me. In middle school, they made confessions about their roles with the racketeering, worse than racketeering, with the databases, and their roles with overt criminal enterprises, Latin gangs, and Italian criminal enterprises, and people associated with threats to kill. In other words, one of the kids, a Ray Cololo, a Mike Kerr sought me out as a complete stranger. One of the things was a whole bunch of confessions and demonstrations tied also to my grammar school. I never saw him one time in grammar school. I never had anything to do with Mike Kerr in grammar school. And I never saw him in middle school. I never had a class with him, never had anything to do with him in middle school. And or high school. They tried to make one exception. One time I saw him in the hallway, and it was not his locker. It was Heather Hanson's locker, and they were in that. That's when like they were making confessions to pretend they know me. And so like the whole freshman year, I didn't even hang around with. I didn't even know. Most of the time there was like exceptions. I didn't know. I never got to meet any of the other freshmen. I used to hang out in another town. And they even attach me and those people's name to fake words with each other and with others. Now, these are people involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and with my town's police chief, Cintron, and one or more years ago, involved with a house on my street with the name Cololo. But there's a guy named Bob Chase who is involved with various natures of courts, who confessed, demonstrated, recorded. He's going to pretend other, but he confessed, demonstrated, recorded. He's involved with a Phil Cololo, with federal crimes, with evidences, and with falsified police reports, with a principal child abuser, proven. They did that to force that, and other stuff sustained. They're also involved with a whole bunch of confessions of people and tied to with medical corruption, people involved with Middletown and Hartford and like locations with them with this. And with that, people associated with the name Ian, with Twitter involved criminally. Now, these are worse than elections crimes. They have a religious, physical delusions. I wouldn't use their words, too. I'm warning you guys. You do as you want, but I wouldn't call it extremism because they are recorded in collusion. Like, for example, when they try to fight for women's rights, the way to fight for women's rights in Afghanistan is by using the beginning of the Quran. But they won't let them use the beginning of the Quran because they're already involved with other natures of warfare that are criminally foreign influence there and here. They already have psychology and psychiatry, delusions wrought, involved with very juxtaposed natures of federal crimes, of criminal foreign influence, self-value, recorded uses of that too, of their characters. They were raised as a fake theater. So we have some fake men. There's a guy that was wearing a dress, involved with a house of an O'Brien family. I don't know if they still own the house or not. Across the street from them is a Wydell family that is also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, having been brought in to the federal crimes of roles with this Phil Cololo and his grandfather and the people on my street involved with various natures of police departments, with these people calling my house, switching names from the Wethersfield town officers and the Wethersfield Police Department criminally involved. These are also people where the Wethersfield Police Department used to be. That is also involved with the confessions and the statements also as confessions, and the physical delusions also as evidence of Graham and her pretending to care, as the roles also with their Facebook pages, preventing mandated law, as forensics locations. So there's a Whiting forensics location that is involved with cliques and family members involved with fact-cheated nature, predicate acts, where people hear things through others, as roles with investigators and investigations that are criminally foreign influence, and they're making people roles with their sense and sensibility. Everyone lets it go because everyone's saying, well, that's why they're supposed to follow mandated law. So they've been hiding this from the Fox News judges. So they've been setting everybody up because they have this. That's where the self-valued part is. Part of why it is important, because this is also an identity method, exploiting where we are a value/value progression as an identity, and as sequence/simultaneous nature. As nature, as identity, where it is a simultaneous, is relationship to what is positive and to negative simultaneously, and hyper-simultaneously. But we have this obfuscated, and that self-value obfuscated increasingly by all formal positions and trainings because of, and relevant to this. So we need to get a response. They're sequence shifting with you across America with their story, the timing of the story about first of all, an insurrection too. The timing of the story about parents attacking the It's juxtaposed. They're maintaining victims reacting and then sequence shifting. They're making you fight them so they can hide their roles with identity thefts, frauds against you and against your kids. And this is